We have got Vivek, who has just started his company around a year back. And it's a startup. You have been working for other companies for almost around 12 or 13 years. And finally, you said, OK, let me start my company. And when did you start? And what was the motivation for you to do something on your own? And you always had this entrepreneurial spirit to be starting something one fine day? Or what really happened that you started your own company?
So definitely a late bloomer in the entrepreneurship game. So I worked for 15 years before I took the plunge. In terms of what were the drivers, I definitely for a long time had this thing of trying to do something of my own. I guess before now I never had the guts to do it. But when I took a decision of saying this is something which I want to do, what was the reaction of people? I would say a lot of family, friends, everybody really supported the decision. I think the big question was what is that I lose, or what do I stand to lose, which is typically the biggest fear. I think your experience, your capabilities always stays with you, so you're not going to lose them. I think by trying to do something different, addressing new challenges, new opportunities, you're only going to learn something different. So that was really one of the big drivers.
Okay. And Mani, you have been in this space for quite some time. You started way back in 2003. And what is the space out there? How did people react when you started your own company? And you were working earlier for someone else. So what is the inspiration for that?
So earlier I was working on a Valley-based company. It's called Selectica, and it got acquired by Accenture. And Accenture is a services company, so we wanted to build products on our own. So that's why we created Orangescape in the first place. So that's been our journey. Passion has been the primary goal behind why we wanted to create a product-based ecosystem in India.
Okay. And coming to Akshay, so how did your journey start?
So, well, I was working about 10 years before I started the company. So I was more or less out of college. I had a plan that I would do about 10 years of working, get certain basics in place before I plunge into entrepreneurship. So well, it's a lot about passion and how and what you want to do. But yeah, so out of college there were a lot of building blocks in terms of financials to be taken care of, as well as certain learnings which need to get added before you can jump in, is what I felt. And I gave myself about 10 years of time to get those in place and then took the plunge. So
okay.
It's been about 3 years and it's been great doing what we've been doing.
And you don't regret it?
Regret? No, I don't regret it at all.
That's good. That's
good. Maybe 10 years was a bit long. That's what I think when I look back at it. Maybe I should have started a bit earlier.
Okay. And Deepak, as you know, Reliance again has been in the entertainment space for quite some time, and you own Bitflix and Zabak.com. And what is the change in terms of consumers' content preference? You know, how the consumer used to consume content around 8 or 9 years back, right. And how does it change now, and what's the kind of expectation from the consumer now? And can you also differentiate between the consumption patterns in Tier 1 cities to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities?
Right. I think 8 and 9 years is a very long period. I think in the last 5 years we've seen a lot of changes happening in the content consumption patterns. In the PC space, if you look back about, I think 5-6 years back, people used to browse online to check their emails, search, and maybe bit of reading news here and there. But now if you see, people are spending a lot of time on social networking. Videos actually have really zoomed in. YouTube is actually the most popular destination in India with I think about 40-50 million unique users a month. Gaming has really grown really big, not just on PC but also on mobile. About 5-6 years back, when we started working in the gaming space, there was hardly any gaming market that existed. People used to download, or people used to play embedded games on their mobile phones, and that market obviously was very small. And in fact, whatever games that used to come on your mobile phones, that was the only source of entertainment for you. So when we started distributing games online as well as mobile, it was really very difficult for us to actually make a strong market for ourselves because we used internet as a medium to distribute, and internet was not that prevalent in India. Broadband, especially if you look at videos on the gaming space, it requires broadband, and broadband was not really big 5 years back. But now if you see, obviously broadband is still not really everywhere, but it is much better than what it was 5 years ago. So videos and especially movies online, people are actually consuming a lot of movies online, which is something which we discovered when we shifted our business model 2 years back from offline DVD retailing to complete online streaming. So we decided 2 years back that internet is the way to go, and we should only look at digital delivery as the only medium. So we've seen that in the last 2 years, people are consuming a lot of movies online. There are obviously people who download movies from torrent sites, which are illegal sites, but there are many people who are now legally streaming movies from sites like Netflix, YouTube, a couple of other sites which are offering full-length movies free of cost. If you look at consumption patterns in tier 1 and tier 2, very, very surprising that tier 2 cities is actually consuming more of, I'm talking about videos, more of English movies than Hindi movies. So that's something which we also found out in last survey, that people are looking forward to more English content than Hindi content. And in tier 1 cities, people are consuming short format content. They're not actually spending 2 hours, 2.5 hours in front of the computer screen. So that's the basic difference which we saw in the video space. If you look at the gaming space, again tier 2 is completely different when it comes to tier 1. On the online side, they play hardcore games which requires 15 to 20 minutes of committed gameplay every day. So 15-20 minutes average. So there are people who would play for 4 to 5 hours a day. But whereas in big cities like Delhi, Bombay or other big cities, people are actually doing more of casual gaming. They would on an average play for 5 minutes. So that's one basic difference when it comes to online gaming. And in the mobile space, in last couple of years, we've seen a lot of free gaming has come in thanks to Visa. They're actually pushing a lot of free games on mobile. So people are actually downloading lots of free games. In fact, we've seen in just 1 month alone, we've seen almost 2 to 3 million downloads happening from our old catalog. In fact, there are 20 such developers who are, I think, witnessing almost 40 to 50 million downloads every month of free games. So, in a way, the data consumption has actually gone through the roof, both in video space and the gaming space.
That's a pretty good overview. Pranay, when you started Quicker around 3 years back, I know it's online classified is a pretty tricky business and there's a huge amount of competition. And what kind of survey did you even do before taking a plunge saying, this is the kind of space that I should be getting into? And what made you get that confidence that I'll make a difference in that space? And what is the kind of differentiator of Quicker when compared to other companies? And the last question would be, what kind of technology vision that you have got for the company, whether it could be mobile, and what's the differentiator that you want to bring to the table?
Let's start with the last thing first. The differentiator, I think the biggest differentiator is that Quicker is quicker, right? But slowly it's also becoming bigger. So if you look at the platform today, it is the largest company of its kind in India, and we get about 17 odd million unique visitors every month, which is about 20% of India's active internet population. So it's it's a pretty sizable platform, I would say now. In terms of the reason why it made sense to start this business, I think, see, first of all, if you have a good idea, a lot of people, especially in the early stages, get intimidated by 3 other guys doing it. But the point is, if you have a good idea, you are not the only guy in the world who would have come up with it. So it's okay to have, in fact, it's good to have a few other people trying it, because that sort of validates your space. It's a bit of a cliche to say it, but it's true. So I don't think it's anything to be very scared of, that there are 2-3 other people doing it. It's a good thing. And then secondly, in our case, you would actually see more than 3 people. But the thing is, at least in my case, I always try to differentiate between competition and noise. There's a market with a lot of competition, but there can also be a market with a lot of noise. If you look at Quicker, it's a classifieds platform where, it's deceptively easy to start it. You know, anybody can slap together a 4-page website and say post a listing or search for a listing. But there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So a lot of the companies that, you know, people hear about in our case might also be, you know, not even close to the size we are talking of. So from that point of view, I think, you know, what at least I saw was there was a clear opportunity in India where, you know, a lot of people still don't have credit cards. They're still sort of getting to know e-commerce. And this is a platform where people get to see the product before they actually buy it, or they, you know, it's about transacting around a service. And that kind of a platform did make a lot of sense in India.
And what's the kind of technology roadmap that you got, and how important is mobile?
Mobile is super important. You see, as far as technology roadmap, I'll speak very practically about it. I think, see, we have a pretty, you know, a good sense of sort of direction, and I think some of the people here would agree with me. But it's not like you have the thing buttoned down so well, because these businesses move very dynamically. So, you know, you do need to have a sense of the direction. You need to have a sense of maybe the vision, right? Which in my case would be to be the, you know, quickest place for people to get stuff done, right? Buy, sell, rent, find. And then you have plans around what will you do on a mobile site, or what you would do on an app, or a, you know, a desktop site. But, you know, it evolves. So I would say to look 3 years hence is actually maybe a little bit too long term, at least in, you know, where I sit. But yeah, there is, you know, definitely a clear laid out roadmap for, I would say, the next 3 to 6 months. And beyond that, you know, you have sort of themes as to what you want to work on. And, you know, the rest sort of evolves as you go.
Okay.
And literally, I mean, in our case, you know, even though it's a big platform, we, you know, I just make sure we have a release every week. So it's not about, you know, okay, we're working on something which will work for 3 months, and then we'll realize that nobody likes it. You know, it's important to get it out there, get it tested. People would, you know, love it, hate it, tell you why they hate it. You learn a lot. It's important to, I think, just keep releasing it. Yeah.
So Mani, you are in the right position to be answering this. When it comes to number of releases, when it comes to what's the kind of roadmap that you have for your company. So what's the kind of vision, you have been there from 2003. So what's the kind of vision that you have for your company when you're talking about product roadmaps? And what is a viable vision?
Right. So startups are always about agility, right? So even big companies are becoming agile. For example, Google, you tend to iterate more. That is the way of going today. Even a big company like Apple has a pizza team. That's the maximum size of the team. Why do we work on that? Because the market dynamics changes continuously, right? You know, there is this saying, shit happens, right? So when we launched on TechCrunch, our half of the population of the visitors had to go to page not found error. You know, it happens for a company like us, which has been in the business for 9 years. So it's very hard to plan. You know, there is this famous saying in Dark Knight where Joker says, don't be a schemer, right? So don't plan for every single thing, but instead plan for objectives. And then you should be careful about setting the objectives realistically and meeting the objectives. Because, you know, what was relevant yesterday is not relevant today. Today the whole marketing revolves around social media and search. 5 years back they weren't even existent, right? So you have to focus on objectives and not really on the execution. Execution has to be based on the dynamics of the market.
And next question would be for Vivek. E-learning space is just a year old, and your company is a year old, and don't you think so that market was really saturated at that point in time, and do you still felt there was a need for bringing a differentiator?
So, so I think the question is, what is the product?
Yeah.
And I think e-learning is one of those cliched definitions of a market space. Lots of players, lots of offerings. But if you can build something which is different, which I believe we built, and it's execution. A lot of it is execution, how well you execute it. So I think what we built is essentially not static e-learning content, which essentially throws concepts or ideas at people, but we built a proprietary platform which gives people cloud-based labs. So the whole thing is that you can go and try and attempt and practice what you're learning in terms of concepts. So there is a market, there is a potential, but I think Pranay mentioned about it. As long there will be enough people with the same idea or a similar idea out there in the market. It's about how well can you execute it, and can you be faster and better than your competitors.
Ashay, you and Deepak co-founded this company, and how easy or difficult it is to find like-minded people? You know, you don't have, initially when you start a company, you don't have funding, and it's just two like-minded people coming together and they've got a great idea. So how did you find your initial set of team members who are sharing the same kind of a passion, where there's no cash inflow, you are yet to build a product, and you are just selling dreams and vision? So how do you go about building up your team?
Well, the most important thing that an entrepreneur should be able to do is to conjure up the resources that he wants, be it financial resources or people resources. So unless you are able to get more people associated with you, or get what you require done through people, whether they are on board or they are freelancing for you, or they are sort of consulting for you, you have to be able to get people on board. And since me and my partner both had come through working for 10 years, there were a lot of people we had worked with, and they were our first prime targets to go and hunt the right type of talent to pick up. So we knew these guys, they knew us, and hence it was a bit easier to sell. If you look at a similar college environment also, it's people you know that you start off with first, and then you have to be parallel, you have to be able to get what we call as new blood, or completely different minded people that would add to your talent in terms of they would complement your skills. We also went about balancing out people we knew or we had worked with, and people who we had not worked with but via a contact. People who we knew, they recommended us certain people, and that person sort of facilitated that person joining us. So we very consciously went about doing this, where we said we will get a set of people who we know, but it's not that all that company will be people who know each other. Unless you get new type of people who sort of bring in different team dynamics, that really adds a great value, at least at the initial stage, where you have certain things on your drawing board, but the drawing board to reality is at least 50% different minimum, what you're going to actually get to the market. So getting the initial set of people you know, or get people via people you know.
Okay. So how does it work with you, Pranay? Is it still difficult to find the right kind of a talent? When I'm talking about talent, I'm talking about specific niche talent like UI UX designers. I'm talking about product managers. We are good at execution, but still when it comes to product conceptualization, I do hear a lot of issues saying I'm not able to find the right kind of a talent. Do you still feel it's the same kind of a issue which is still prevailing in India?
Yeah. I think in somehow I think we see part of it is our, I think our startup ecosystem is still evolving. So it's always hard to find. I would say people, the hardest people to find in general, people, it used to be harder to find them, but it's getting easier because a lot of people here, for example, want to start companies because they've seen the market develop, they've seen a few exits in the market and so on, and it's nice, So, but a few skills are particularly hard to find. One is product management. Somehow I think our market still is developing. Design, a lot of people will still, have the Harapila style of design, and that doesn't work with the internet crowd. So you need to find the person with the right sensibility, which is not easy. So that's second skill. And third, I would say the good old core software development is so hard to recruit for, man. I mean, I'm talking to the right audience here, but I'm telling you, I've been talking to Vivek, who's building a software training company, So, so he has a platform where he trains people on how to write code by using these labs, right? So we want to use a platform like this. Anyhow, it's hard to find good technologists because a lot of them want to start their own companies, first of all, so that's one reason. And second is I think, whoever doesn't do it, then they end up working for large IT services companies. And, it's, so I think it's something that's getting better, but that's, I would say, a very tough skill to find.
Yeah, sure.
I spent 15 years of my career in a couple of IT services businesses, and I ran large businesses. So that's what when people call India as an IT hub, or it refers to the IT services industry, where majority of the people are used to taking instructions from somebody else and saying this is what I need to execute, and I have specs from somebody else. And I think that's probably the reason why we find people who can conceptualize products or UI or stuff like that very difficult to find. You don't have experienced people, but I think with the newer generation, people are coming in and doing that kind of stuff. I think the market has changed quite a lot in the last few years. India as a consumer of products has become a much bigger market space. So you're getting products, people who can understand products, who can understand requirements and say I can develop a product for this market.
Okay.
So I think there is stuff like that which is moving, which hopefully creates more availability, more experienced professionals in that space. And I think that's really what we are also attempting to do as an e-learning.
Yeah, and even my observation is Indians are usually really great in solving a problem. Look at all the IT services company, and it's been often said that Indians are not great in identifying a problem. So do you think that the space is quite changing over a period of time? In terms of, you identifying a problem and saying, hey, there's a problem and I want to get a solution for that.
I would actually go a step back.
Okay.
Before identification of the problem, it is Indians are very good at being told if you are told, and that's the IT services business, that go and do this, and they'll go and do it very well and very efficiently.
Yeah.
But I think it's changing. Yes, I would say so. It's dramatically changing.
Yeah, sure.
So in terms of identifying the problem, what was happening prior was a lot of development of products. If they were not for the local environment that I am in, then if you're trying to say, am I able to identify a problem for a user in the developed markets, I would not be. But that's changing. So primarily, since the local market is opening up and is growing at a rate where it can sustain companies, I believe there are much more people who are able to identify problems and needs of these markets, the emerging markets, or specifically Indian market as such, and look at solutions and find the right solutions. The other thing is that like while you're looking at team building and building your company, it need not be that you have all forms of people to be a part of the team as full time. You can balance it out with outsourcing of different sorts as well as having people who are consulting you. So at till a certain stage of the company, you may not want to have people who are full time on board. So you need to be able to balance that out quite well to really get the speed that is required, because you can't wait for people to come on board before you get something done.
Okay, cool. So next point which I want to talk about is the concept of mentorship. Every startup has got some kind of a mentor. It could be a technical mentor, it could be mentor in the funding space, it could be mentor to let you know this is the kind of marketing opportunity, this is the kind of sales opportunities. So is it pretty much necessary for every startup to have a mentor? That's my question number one. And is there a definite line that you draw between a mentor and a mentee? Does a mentor eventually sit on the board of directors, or a mentor will always remain a mentor throughout? Let's start with Mani.
Right. So, India is a land of free advice, right? So you get advice right from your uncle to your grandfather. There is no problem with free advice. So that's the reason why you need to select the right set of mentors for your company. Especially if you have people who have been there, done that, they should have proper connects to your VC or perhaps to the customer client base. They are the good candidates for mentor. I mean, if you look at even your potential customer base, they could be a pain in the back, but then they can give you very valuable insights into what kind of product you should be developing. Thinking about it from a customer standpoint is what makes a difference between a great company and a moderately successful company. It's not about technology. So have mentors who have that insight from a customer standpoint. That's my advice for mentorship.
Vivek?
So I look at mentorship slightly differently. I mean, I think one is having a person or a small group of people who advise you on details. My experience from where I came from, I reach out to a lot of people, which is friends, customers, as Mani said, or potential customers. people I've worked with in the past to bounce off ideas, to validate what I'm thinking. And at times that is probably the most important thing, but otherwise you can really go mad on trying to solve a problem and convincing yourself that what you're doing is the right thing. So having some kind of ecosystem is definitely necessary. People you can bounce off ideas, trust their advice, or at least just get it out of your chest and get a second opinion on it. So that I think is extremely essential for every entrepreneur to have.
Okay, Pranay?
Yeah, I think it's always good to have people that you can discuss your ideas with. I think especially when you are, relatively early in your career, if you're just starting out, it's extremely helpful, I would say, overall. But I think one thing that, the other, I think, biggest mentor for you would be your user. So you need to, I think, listen to your user, whoever he or she is, very, very closely, because imagining that this crowd generally is more interested in creating digital businesses, that's super important. I think, listening to your user. And, the only other thing I would mention is that you need to, see, there are no rules in this game, right? That's the rule. There's no rule. So given that, I think, you need to take that advice, but at the same time, you need to be able to sort of almost, distinguish between gyan and advice. So, you don't have to take gyan and just follow it just for the sake of it. It is important to have your own little streak of, what your instinct says. Because sometimes, nobody has, in most cases, people would not have done what you're trying to do before, right? In creating a new idea or a new company. So it is important to have that sort of thing that, nobody quite knows for certain. So take that advice, learn from their experience, but do make your own decisions, is what I would say.
Okay, Deepak?
Yeah, so in fact, I've been, mentoring a couple of my friends. They just, the two startups which I'm, associated with. So when it comes to mentoring, I'm very clear. I'm not telling them what to do, what not to do. I'm just telling them from my 14 years of experience, what I have done, what mistakes I did, what I learned from those mistakes, and how they can, if indirectly or directly, learn from those mistakes and may or may not, repeat that in their businesses. So I think that's the clear demarcation where I don't really get into the business and tell them, okay, this is how you should be, creating your business plan. This is how you should be creating your marketing plan, and your product should look like this. Because they come together, they build a team. Founders are, I think, the best guys to decide what their product should be, how they should be marketing it. But yes, when it comes to mentorship, I'm there to actually pass on all my experience which I have. When they ask me, I'm always there. I don't unnecessarily, get into their lives. So that's how I believe the relationship should be.
Okay, Harsha?
So, like I have seen a lot of companies that are having an excellent product, but really don't shift into a successful company. So, I believe mentorship is where, whilst the founders or some of the core guys might be listening to the customers, listening to this, understanding the core business, and being able to get product ready for market. It sometimes requires experience to understand which markets to attack first, where to focus first, and hence keep building from there. So I believe mentorship in that respect, to talk to somebody who's experienced or who understands the macroeconomics that are going around you much better, because you're focused on your idea, your concept, your baby as such. But if there's somebody who can help you with the macros around you and help you say, okay, don't do this first, do this first a bit, and well, you have to validate it yourself. But I believe that could help you from being a good product into a successful product. So I think mentorship is really helpful there.
Yeah. And my next topic would be on raising money, on funding. At what point in time, this question would be to you, Pranay, at what point in time should a startup think about raising funds? And more often than ever, it's when they do get qualified, and when you have multiple rounds of discussions, sometimes you're offered much more money than you would really ask for. And how does one decide how much amount of money do I need, and what kind of vision that you should have? How much do I look at for 3 years horizon, or do I look at 5 years horizon? And what are because most of the guys out here want to start their own companies eventually, And what are the kind of avenues, let's go back and think about what are the kind of avenues which are available for raising fund for a startup? And how does the ecosystem look like throughout India, in Mumbai in general? You can give all the examples.
I think the ecosystem is bright, first of all. I think there's a lot of money in the country, waiting to get invested. So people keep looking for good sort of, ideas. But I would say the right time, taking that one first, I think it's important to build something and then go seeking money. If you go with the PowerPoint, yeah, I mean, you might get lucky. People win lotteries also. But, it's better for you also because you would be able to likely raise more. You would have done something. If it's not fully working, that's also okay. Build something first. I would say that, and if you can actually, and it's, when you're building that, just keep this in mind that, again, unless you win a lottery, things don't work in the first go, right? You iterate, whatever, people are pivoting, iteration, all kinds of words around it, but the reality is you learn from your user, right? You tweak your product, you see, yaar, ye kaam nahi kar raha, wo kar raha. You have to try these things. So build something. If you have some semblance of attraction, that will definitely help you. In terms of, how much, I think, more is always better. But at the same time, I mean, typically what, you will be expecting to give away a certain part of your company, right, when you go. And, in the early stages, it will be some, 20, 30, 40% range. That becomes almost irrespective of the amount you're raising, by the way, right? So whether you're raising 100 rupees or you're raising, $10 million, $10 million probably you'll give up a lot more. But in general, right, early stages, $2, $3, $4 million, you'll give away a certain percentage. So might as well build the thing to a point where you can raise more money against that percentage you'll give away. Yeah, was there another question there? Or
yeah, what are the different ways of
different
raising?
ways, yeah. So I would say, see, I think the good thing is now the angels are becoming more and more active. So that always is a good way to get started. If you're looking for funding at a small scale, or if you need it at a small scale first, you obviously have more organized kind of, band of angels and super angels, etc., that are, coming into the market that actually have been investing. I would say talk to your friends and family. There's nothing wrong in it. Some of the best businesses get started that way. But yeah, if you are able to bootstrap it to a point where you can directly do a venture round, then why not? Then might as well go for it. And obviously, just see if you need the money. If you can actually create a business where you don't need funding, nothing like it. And a lot of services businesses get created that way. So you have to just see what you're trying to create and whether you need the money. If you do, then I think the money is there. And there are early stage venture firms and there will be late stage venture firms, and those are sort of easy to, I guess, tell from each other.
Yeah, cool. So how did you go ahead, Mani?
Yeah, I mean, there is this famous saying about venture funding companies, right? So they give you money when you don't need money, right? So when you are in actual need of money, they don't give you money. So when VCs are giving you money, you are very late to investment. When VCs are not responding at all, you are not ready for funding. So you need to find that balance between those two things. That happens when there is user traction, but you don't have business model established. That's the right time to go for funding.
Okay. So we've got another 15 more minutes before we break it open for Q&A. I got one last question for each of the panel members. What is one piece of learning, one mistake that you did, and one piece of advice that you want to give to the audience, especially your young friends out here?
Okay, I've always given this 3 points, right? The first point is keep your liabilities low, right? If you have a housing loan where you have to pay 60,000 per month and you have a car loan which has around 30,000, around 1 lakh, it's hard for you to leave your full-time job and go into another companies, right? So keep your liabilities low. That will mentally give you peace to get into another company. The second one is be passionate. The difference between a vision and the ability to execute is that you are able to come over the immediacy of pain. That happens when you love your job. So passion is very important. That's the second most important point. The third important point is don't be afraid of failure. Ultimately, what is that you are going to do when you fail in a large company or in a small company when you start up? You be an executive, you learn a lot of things. So even if you fail, you are not in this rat race of running this everyday employee job. You have learned much more. You will come back for a revenge. Believe me, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you.
So I think very similar to what Mani said, nothing So you have to know your opportunity cost, you call it your aspirations, your ambition, what you're setting out for. And one of the advices when people come and ask me about entrepreneurship is, don't do it as an exit out of something you're not liking, which is typically a job. I've heard a lot of people wanting to be an entrepreneur because I think they don't like their boss, they don't like their colleagues, and they're fed up of their job. And the people believe that becoming an entrepreneur means that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. In all probability, you will fail if you're going to go down that path. So that's really one advice I would say. Do it for the right reasons, don't do it for the wrong reasons. Yeah.
Cool. So nice.
I would say, just go into it practically, knowing there will be lows and there will be highs, so wait for the highs. And, this is, I guess, one occupation where, you will not feel uncool even if you failed, first of all. And it's not the end of the world, if you fail. So, especially early on, one has this fear of failure and, oh my God, what will happen? Will I find a job? You'll always find a better job if you have tried, and failed, something like this. So, I would say that's one. Secondly, I would say the importance of team overall, so it's, and sometimes people are sort of shy of negotiating with their friends, etc. But I think in general, if you can find friends or people that you know from before, it helps, because when a company is coming together, it's very helpful to have that core of 2, 3, 4 people that you guys know each other well. It's always good to have that. So if there's a core nucleus of people who know each other, that always helps. So that, I would say, would be the other key factor.
Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, Deepak.
So I would say, I think, all of them have actually covered really good points, but one thing which I would like to add, keep your thought, when you are developing something, keep your thought process very, very simple. Don't look at creating, you can create complex products, but your thought process should be simple. You should be able to convey your product to somebody in a single line. You should not be needing a 5-page document or a 20-slide presentation to explain what your product is. So if your thought process is simple, if you're able to communicate it well, your users will be able to accept it much better. So that's one feedback I have for all.
Okay.
Well, being the last one is a bit difficult, but the key learning that I have from doing this is I got into it with the mindset of winning. Well, there might be fears, whatever, but when you get into it, you get into it in terms of succeeding against all odds. So there will be bad days, there will be good days, everything. There will be more bad days than good, but you have to get into it and stay with it to succeed. So you get up every day and you say, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to make this happen. And you keep pushing and you keep pushing. So unless you believe that you have that in you, don't jump into it. And once you believe that, yes, I can keep pushing and I am going to succeed, that's when you can take your plunge and keep at it then.
Good, awesome. So with that, we did cover a couple of very important aspects. We did cover the startup scenario now and how the startup scenario was there a couple of years back. We did cover a very important aspect of raising funds. We did talk about mentorship. We talked about validating your idea and believing in the idea. And we also talked about actual product development challenges. With that, I want to thank each and every one out here on the panel for such a brilliant discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And now we'll open up for Q&A. If you got any questions, please do line up in the front row out here. There's a mic out here. Please do line up. We'll be taking around 6 or 7 questions. So please do line up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Viraj. I have 2 questions. One is specific to Pranay, and one is for all the panelists, including the moderator. My first question, specific question is, you said it's very easy on Quikr to create a classified. So how will you ensure that it's an authentic classified? How would you ensure the personality of the one who's posted it so that he can trust the guy? And the general question that I'm coming up with, and I was itching to ask all of you this, is that what would be in your vision, what would be the top 3 disruptors globally and top 3 disruptors in India, and which you would be keeping your eyes on? Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So, by the way, I said it's deceptively easy. So, creating a classified platform is deceptively easy. Don't try it because, the thing is, okay, very specific question to my business, right? You're building a marketplace. So, you need to have both supply and demand of something, right? If I put too much money into marketing and pull a lot of users who are looking to buy, phones, and I don't have anybody selling their used phones, they will not get a good experience. So, it's people think that, classified websites are easy to create is what I'm saying, but it takes a lot more to create a platform where you have the supply demand imbalance, because that's where people get a good experience and they sort of, go and talk to others about it. So, it's actually a very, very tough business to scale. You can put together a website, but a website doesn't mean much unless you have users. Yeah, so I think the second question is about disruptors, right? I think the first thing that comes to mind, which I guess we'll all agree with in some ways, is mobile. It's an obvious answer, but I think it is there. And the thing is, first of all, a lot of us are still sort of, the platform started as an online platform, at least in my case, became also a mobile platform. And so first of all, that itself is a big change for the business. But on top of it, the mobile medium itself is changing so damn fast, right? Nobody has a clue what will happen 2-3 years later with certainty. So given that, I think that is probably the biggest disruption, media from a medium side, right? Then I would say consumer preferences themselves, they evolve very fast now because of digital media. So that's probably one other thing that comes to mind, which is the way consumers can shift their preferences, their own. For example, if you look at the way people have started consuming media, right? How they used to do it 10 years ago versus now, it's so different. That itself can be a huge disruption in any business model. Yeah, and then I guess if I have to mention something else, I would say you have to probably be looking outside of your immediate competitors to see who is your to see who else could disrupt your model. In my case, in addition to all the classified platforms, I would look at Facebook. If somebody wants a maid or a cook or a driver, they post it on Facebook, so they are my competitors. So I think you have to be aware of those forces.
Yeah, Mani, you have to add something?
Yeah, so I have been always an advocate of focusing on unavailability problem. There are 2 unavailability problems that are having this broad category. First one is, think about all these IT applications which are managed by IT, right, which are not yet available to end users. Think about, for example, UFU forms. Think about what we are doing in KissFlow, right? It's about making the normal users expert users. Today, consumerization of IT is all about that. That's number 1. Number 2, focus on the unavailability problem of the emerging markets, right? Instead of focusing on what I talked about in the afternoon, instead of focusing on being a competitor to Oracle ERP with so many feature set, focus on the people who do not have an ERP at all in emerging markets. Create a cloud computing paradigm on top of that. Those are the 2 specific high level global items. On the local opportunity, think about, like, for example, Bharat Matrimony. It's a culturally important aspect which nobody else will be able to crack. You can't create a dating site in India. What you should create is a marriage matrimony site where people will be willing to pay thousands of rupees. It's the only commercial model viable which nobody else in the culture will be able to get it. That's a huge opportunity for you.
Anyone wants to add anything?
In the technology space, while mobile is more or less on the scene, tablets and connected televisions, those are the 2 other screens that are growing rapidly, both internationally, and you'll soon see a lot of connected televisions in India also in the next few years. So those 2 screens will start playing a bigger role when you're looking at digital services, digital content consumption happening. And basically user preferences cross-screen or cross-screen services, those would sort of be the next things to watch out for.
Yeah, thank you. Let's take the next question.
Sir, I have to
before we start, there's a humble request. There's a lot of background noise and it's pretty much distracting us. So far you have been excellent audience. Just hold on to another 8 more minutes. So we'll be taking the Q&A, and it's pretty much distracting. So please maintain silence. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I have two questions. My first question is like, usually if the investors are investing money in my application, then what are the general terms and conditions? Like how do I need to return money to them? Like profit sharing, or what kind of those scenarios are there? And the second question is, for example, I have created a very successful product. I have huge user followers, but I have not put any advertisement in my application, and also I am providing the application on free of cost. So in such case, how would I gain money, or how money would come? For example, let's take a case of Instagram. Instagram was acquired by Facebook, but before that there was no any investment. There was an investment, but no the application was free and no advertisement. Like Flipbook is there, Path applications are there. So how they are making money? Those are my questions.
Wants to take it up? Yeah.
Do you want me to, okay, I'll answer both the questions. So the first question, if I understand correctly, was about how do you make money with users? Sorry, that's the second question, right? So there is this famous paper which talks about if you are not the customer, you are the product. Now, the idea is, when you are a free user, when you are not paying for it, you are not the customer. Therefore, you are being sold. That's the first thing to understand. Facebook, sorry to say, Google, all these companies, when you use their product for free, you are being targeted. Who are the people who are buying you? It is the advertisers, right? They are targeting you so that they can sell the product. It's an indirect revenue. That is why Facebook is valued at such a large amount, because it's the traction that matters. Business model can be found indirectly by targeting advertisers. So that's the model. On the first question, can you repeat the question again?
How to get invest? What are the general terms and conditions?
Got it. So usually go for Y Combinator. There is this specific page which talks about the valuation. When you just have idea, there is a valuation based on the number of founders, plus there is a fixed amount. So there is $12,000 plus $3,000 per founder. So roughly your company will be valued around $20,000 when you don't have any prototype, you only have an idea. So if your company is valued to that extent and people are willing to give you money, you have to give them appropriate sweet equity. That's basically the idea. So if you have X number of users, then the valuation will appropriately change. That becomes a little more complex, but that's the basic premise on which you should start.
Thank you.
Sir, I have mainly two questions. First of one, if I make any product, and as I am a starter, any big company can copy and make it better, and with great publicity can make a big market. And as I am a starter, inventor of this product, I may lose. I may not get any market. So how to protect my product? And the second question is, as I am a student, as every one of you started with a doing job in different company, then started your company. So should we first start with different company to gain some experience, then start my company?
Right. I mean, I'll answer the first question first, and probably I'll leave it to the other panel members to take the next ones. So there is this concept of transaction cost is equal to 0. What that means is, if you take any brick and mortar company, you always need a transaction cost. Like for example, if you take Pepsi, you have to bring water and sugarcane from all over the world to the industry. Or there is a transaction cost for marketing. If you have to take Pepsi and then distribute it to the markets in different shop, you both need to pay for the marketing efforts as well as for the transportation. IT is the only industry where the transaction cost is 0, because you are acquiring infrastructure at will using cloud computing, for example, or you are distributing your product on the web. Think about Facebook, Google, there is no transaction cost. Transaction cost is 0. So therefore, you don't have to be worried about big companies really taking over your idea, because now with internet as both a sourcing medium and a distribution medium, your barrier to entry into any software industry is nil. So you don't have to worry about that. All it matters is a great idea.
If I can just add,
Go ahead.
add on to what Mani said, yeah. If the big companies could generate those ideas and be fast enough to execute it, they would be executing it, okay? So I think you have to believe in your idea and say that you can be faster and more nimble than a bigger company and they will take their time to react. They will have an approval process to go through for somebody to invest in it. Okay. So I think you have to believe in your idea and run faster. And I think in terms of protecting ideas, there are frameworks. I mean, you can file for patents and intellectual property protection, definitely.
Okay. Next question, please.
The second question.
No, we already answered, right? Both the questions?
Okay.
We'll give it to them.
Hi, my question is, when we say that Indians are good at identifying a problem, but they are not good at solving a problem, where do you think
it's
the
the other way
underlying...
around. It's the other way around.
Sorry?
Indians are good in solving problems, but not in
sorry.
identifying.
we are good in solving a problem, but not identifying a problem. So, where do you think the underlying cause is? Whether it is the culture, the education system, or the way we live our life, like chalta hai, or we get used to things. So, where do you think the problem is?
Deepak, do you want to take it? We'll just, in terms of...
See, when it comes to, if you look at our education system, we all believe in getting good numbers, good grades, and then, that's what we talk about in our family, that, I've got so much of grades and percentage. So, and if you look at, how we actually study in school, we're given tasks, we are given assignments, we make sure that we're the first ones to submit it. So it's all about, finishing those assignments, finishing the curriculum which you have. So, we from day one we are told that, this is the problem, please solve it. This is your homework, please do it.
And you'll get a reward.
And you get a reward. So, and we grow up like that. When nobody tells us, okay, there's a situation. If you can, create a better solution for this situation. If there's a scenario which they give it to you and ask you to solve it, then things will be different. But in our case, it's very, very curriculum based. So that's the reason, I think we still are good at solving issues and not really identifying issues.
How can we change that? How can we change
I think it's changing. If you look at the way current curriculum is changing, at least in some schools, the way, in fact,
Some schools are.
they are actually encouraging students and kids to do something out of their curriculum. They are actually encouraging students to make mistakes. I think one thing which, when I was in school, I was very afraid of making mistakes. My teachers, my parents, they will always scold me for making mistakes. So now if you see, teachers will tell you, okay, you make mistakes. If you repeat your mistakes, then obviously, they'll tell you that don't do that. But at least for first attempt, second attempt, you are free to make mistakes. So that's what actually will push you to create new thinking, create new ways of solving issues. So I think that's one thing which is definitely changing. Obviously, it will take some time because that's part of our culture, and slowly, education system is really, really, difficult to change overnight, but it will actually happen in the next couple of years for sure.
I think it is changing. It is already changing. For instance, if I just look back at the time when we had graduated, I don't think there were so many people who wanted to start their own companies. So I think the attitude of people like you is already different than what it was, let's say, 15 years ago. Number one. Number two, I think, technology is also becoming less expensive. So it's also becoming more and more feasible to start a company as compared to how it was, in this area as compared to what it used to be 15 years ago. So I think given all that, I would say, it's not like it's something that you have to wait for it to change, 20 years. It's already, that change is already underway. And this audience is the proof of that, right?
Agree.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My question is to any one of you. It's basically, coming from a technical background, we basically think the engineers that are there, today's engineers, when they come out from the college, they think like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, we would make a website. I have an idea, I have something that I can develop. I will basically go up with a website, but we don't know what to do after that. That is the basic problem. Like there is, for creating a structure of a company, we need many more departments in that. So basically my question to you is how to start it, how to accumulate all the departments. Not only one, there is one website, yes, I have built it. But after that, what should I do?
Should I take it?
Yeah.
So the basic idea remains the same, right? So the problem facers are the best problem solvers. You think about every single consumer application in the last 5 years that have been successful. Larry Page and Sergey created search because Yahoo wasn't useful. Think about Facebook. It was created by Mark Zuckerberg because he found that keeping in contact with friends once they leave college was a problem. problem facers are the best problem solvers. What did it take? It took a PHP application and a server to host, right? So think about it from a mindset, because all of the infrastructure and delivery mechanism has been democratized. Anybody has access to it. All you need is a great programmer and a developer and a UX person. That is all you need. You don't have to have departments and hi-fi sounding terminologies like CFO when you start up.
I think the only thing I'll add to that is we spoke about mentorship, right? So if there are areas where you need support, you need to mentor. So somebody, if you need to know about finance, about creating a company, about marketing, you probably bring those either mentors, or you bring in co-founders who complement what you've created and your product. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I'm Gopal here. I'm having a simple question, kind of, what was your vision, for example, quicker.com? Was your vision a kind of a classified kind of website, or just creating a website like selling products or doing business on net? You could have even designed kind of AB type or some Amazon.com type of a thing. And second addition to it, that after you had some idea, every enterprise has an idea in it. So after you had an idea, so did you started doing working out on that idea on your own, or like one man show, or did you start with creating a team kind of thing?
I think the thinking very much was to create a classified platform. It was not to create a place where we would be selling something to people. It was to let people buy and sell from each other, and so that's sort of the overarching thought, and we stayed with that. But I don't think every business has the same journey. So there are cases where you will see very successful companies that started as something else and went into totally, something. So again, I would just go back to, there are no rules. You have to have a sense of purpose of what you're going after. And if it works, it's great. Otherwise you have to be willing to sort of change direction and see where you can apply what you've learned or built. So I would say in general, that is have a clear sense of purpose, go after it with full force. And if it's not working for some reason, be prepared for it and see how you can, sort of apply it in a different way in the market. That's the way I would put it.
And about that idea, if kind of you are having an idea in your mind about classified, so did you in the beginning, did you practice it on your own, or did you begin with that doing a teamwork kind of a thing?
No, you have to have a good team with you in general, right? So, see, whatever gets you started, I think you guys have that skill first of all, like Mani was also saying, most of you, I imagine, you are tech savvy and you actually can start building something. So that is a block you can't afford not to have, right? So that is already there with most of you guys, between you and your friends. Now the rest of the stuff, right, around business side, you can get through either mentorship or, you can probably tap into somebody else's expertise. But I would say that is the one thing where you need to have a team or, one or two people working together at least in the beginning, right?
Thanks, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for a very good panel. They say authors have writer's block, and authors usually struggle a lot to start writing a book. And my observation of being an entrepreneur is also entrepreneurs have an idea block at many times, where they're struggling to get the next best idea. So how important do you think is to have a very unique idea to start off? And if not that important, what's more important in the process, in the entrepreneurial journey? Do you have a core differentiator that you choose to set out with, that I will do a better customer service than every other person out there is doing the same thing as me? So what's the core differentiator for each of you been, and what do you think about the idea block that entrepreneurs usually struggle with at the beginning?
Right. So I think firstly, ideas evolve, okay? I think if we start off with a broader vision saying this is where I'm going to build a product, features evolve, markets change, and I think you have to have a way of keeping in touch with them. Otherwise, you very quickly go out of business. So that's, I think, you can't do away with evolution as a process in your product building strategy.
When you wanted to add something?
Yeah. So there is always this concept of need. An idea could be new, but the need doesn't change. If you think about, for example, the need of car, if you ask the users, they would have asked for a faster horses, right? So the idea is to create automobile, which is an automated version of this one, right? So the need has to be understood from the market, but the idea is yours. What makes it unique?
What will be the scenario of the technology? Today, I mean, if I want to become an entrepreneur, and after 10 years, if I have some experience, where will I be? What will be the technological situation at that time so that I am an entrepreneur, they're a successful entrepreneur at that time?
See, entrepreneurship is like this, right? You're like a beggar with a shirt. It was like that 10 years before. Today it's like a beggar with a suit. It's more fashionable, right? But the basic premise remains the same, right? What gives you confidence is the passion that you have and the product that you build. But you don't have a brand like Steve Jobs or Google. You have to go and beg for each one, right? Whether it is a press coverage, blogger, customer, salesperson, everybody goes and begs. It's the entrepreneur himself. That is why I said the immediacy of the pain is overcome by the passion and the confidence you have about the product. It doesn't change for entrepreneurs ever. What changes is only the technology landscape about how you solve the problem.
Good evening. I would like to ask, once you have established yourselves as entrepreneurs, what is the quality that you require to maintain your position?
Well, I don't think there's any position as entrepreneurs that you acquire. You always keep at it. As he said, you're always at it. So as long as you are still passionate about your idea, as long as you are able to see progress, you are able to keep moving ahead with your idea, and that's what keeps us going as such. So it's not that we've reached somewhere and then you need to hold on to something. As long as you feel that you are doing progress, and as long as you are moving forward, so there is no position at which you can stagnate. You have to keep forward, otherwise you're going to fall.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we are completely running out of time. We can take it offline.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah, so with that, we come to an end of amazing panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up to everyone on the panel.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our panelists right here, everyone. Give it up.
There you go. Thanks a lot. There you go, Greg. Thanks for being here. Come on, keep clapping, guys. There you go. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. That's good.